Hey, this is Mike Koenigs.
And I'm Pam Hendrickson.
And welcome to a video. We wanted to share this with you because we're recording this towards the end of the year, and this is a special video on 7 tips to manage your time better. So, what we've done here is Pam and I have been talking about what we're going to do to improve and increase, really, the sales and the productivity and also the joy we have in our own business. And we thought, well, instead of just brainstorming with us two alone, why don't we share it with you too?
As we got into one of those deep conversations, which I always appreciate so much, and we were talking to just about our own years and experience, and we were saying it's been interesting because as we speak with you, we're noticing the same theme, which is this theme of overwhelm and of
not us. It never happens to us.
It never happens to us at all, which is not why we're talking today. But it's this, gosh, I feel like I've got to do this and this and this in my business, and I've got to manage this in my personal life and where's my family, and how do you balance and juggle it all in a way that's joyful? And we were saying, I actually came to you for help because I've been doing so much. I kind of took on too much, and it's all great stuff. It's stuff I'm happy about because you came to me and said, what's wrong? And I'm like, nothing's wrong, but you noticed that the joy wasn't there because I was just so busy focusing on the what needed to get done instead of forgetting the big picture. So we thought, let's share some of these tips and strategies that we have used when it's worked for us and we've been successful and happy in the process, but also some tips that we know will be proven for you in your business.
Right. So these are tips that not only do we aspire to use ourselves, we have been using. So we're going to tell you a couple stories and take you on a journey. And also today, when Pam and I got together, we created a whole bunch of great content very, very rapidly. And we thought, okay, well, we're going to talk a little bit about how we managed to do this and really what our strategies are that we use together. And these are things that you can use right away as well. So you ready to dive in?
Let's dive in.
Hope you're ready too. So we're going to start in the beginning and just tell you what the 7 tips are, and then we're going to break them up chunk by chunk. So the first one is do. The next one is momentum. The next one is body, measure. Number 5 is assistant, target, and season. So I might as well begin with number 1, Pam.
It's not really an acronym. I was trying to make an acronym out of the first letters.
Yeah, well, I know. I was hoping we could. I actually looked at that and I thought, you know what? We don't have enough time, and sometimes you just got to roll with it.
You got to roll.
All right, so the first one is just doing it. So the question I'd start out with you is, what do all successful entrepreneurs and great athletes have in common?
Successful entrepreneurs and great athletes.
Anyone who's successful.
Yeah, well, probably the biggest thing is I know where you're going, but it's true, is their ability to just do it, is no matter what's going on, what challenges they're facing, what elements they might be facing. I know we were together with our families last night watching a football game, and the football game was in an area where it's freezing, Boston, watching the Patriots, and it was just freezing cold, wind, and athletes still have to go out, they still have to perform, they still have to do their things. And I was thinking about it. I've been backstage with pretty much everybody. I mean, leaders in business and politics and sports and you name it. And the one thing I think they all have in common, you're right, is no matter what's going on, I've been back there when they've gotten really bad news and they got to go out and perform for 10,000 people right after. They just go out and do it. So
yeah, no matter what, the show must go on.
Yeah.
Right. And I know when I talk to a lot of people who are like, they walk up, and the best example I can think of framing right now is, and we do this all the time, we're speaking, we might have spoken, and we'll bump into someone a year later, and they will say something to the effect of, I saw a year ago, I was so inspired, but I didn't do anything. Yeah. And I just couldn't get started, is the common excuse. So I think the key is we all have a moment of freeze up, right? It's like our gears get frozen up, and you've got to find some way to just break through no matter what. So I think getting connected with who you're presenting and performing for, and even as we started up here, we're thinking specifically about who we're connecting with right now, some of our very best customers. And it's so much easier when you put yourself into a place of service to get going. And in the case of show business, when you hear about Hollywood, the show must go on. Yeah. And it's like no matter what's going on in your life, you put on your game face and you plow through it. And as hard as it may seem, when you train your brain to just go for it and go through it, it gets done. And the other example I can think of is in working with Ed Rush. He's definitely one of the most productive people I know.
No doubt, no doubt.
And what he will do is shut off all the distractions, close his door, and just do it. It doesn't matter how much it hurts. It doesn't matter how uncomfortable it is. You just get down there. And creating a deadline for yourself is certainly one way. Turning on an egg timer, for example, is another one. And we're going to talk about some strategies for reducing noise.
And you said something that I, as you said it, I thought, gosh, that's really profound, which is that one of the fastest ways out of stress is serving other people. Is, we get stressed. I know I get stressed because I'm in my head about my own stuff and my own fears or my own whatever coming up.
Does that happen to you too, Pam?
I know, crazy, right? But when you are in a place of service of another person, you cannot be focused on your own issues and your own stress. So I think that's very smart.
Right. Well, let's dive into number 2, which is keeping the momentum. So why don't you talk about that one?
I will, and I actually have some statistics that we have on our fancy machine here, which is that the key to momentum is momentum's achieved, and you know this, is by taking small steps at a time. It's do one thing, make the progress, do the next thing, make the progress, and then pretty soon you have a snowball going down a hill that has tremendous momentum. But we were talking a lot about doing a thing at a time, and this concept of multitasking, you alluded to it with Ed shutting off all the distractions. So check this out. The average attention span of a human being, what do you think it is?
Well, I already know because I cheated, but I would have said somewhere between 30 seconds and 3 minutes if I wouldn't have cheated.
Yeah, science has shown 8 seconds. So what's crazy is that a dozen years ago, a human attention span was 12 seconds. Our lovely friend, the goldfish, has an average attention span of 9 seconds. So our attention span is less than a goldfish, right? But there's a solution. There's a solution out of that.
Yeah.
But first, a little more of the pain, right? So distractions. The average person loses 2.1 hours a day through disruptions and interactions. But what's crazy is so much of it is our fault. And I know I was pulling statistics as we were talking about preparing this video.
Is just sick.
This is sick. So 67% of people check their smartphone, their phone, on a date. And I know you had a comment when I shared that with you.
Yeah, I would say if I were in the dating mode, the way I would determine whether or not there would ever be a second date is if that person pulled out their mobile phone and just started checking their text, I would literally get up and walk away.
And leave them with the bill.
I would.
Yeah.
I'd pay the bill, but they'd find their own way home. I would literally, that would be the end, and it would just terminate because
two-thirds of people. So that narrows down.
Totally.
2/3 of people. 45% of people do it in a movie, which is crazy because if you can't be engaged and engrossed in a movie,
which is designed to fully engage you, right?
Yeah, crazy. And then the last one was 33% of people check it in church, and I'm thinking, are they texting God? Like last I checked, I'm not really sure.
Probably
there's
not.
A text service if there's mobile, QR codes going back and forth.
That is the setup for a good joke, no doubt about it.
Do you have a joke there?
I was just. No, it would not be nice.
Okay.
It was a not nice joke.
Okay, here's the thing. Don't check your phone in church. That just seems crazy. It's counterproductive.
Yeah.
So, but here's some of the things to think about. So only 2% of people, so multitasking, the challenge with all this technology and all these interruptions, as we know, is it's forced us to multitask. But the challenge is we think we're better at multitasking than we are. And it's only 2% of the population who actually really are wired in a way that they can be good at multitasking.
Yeah.
For 98%, and I would say even higher in that category, is it does more harm than good. And this is the last statistic I wanted to share. When you are multitasking and try to do more than one thing at once, it causes a 40% drop in productivity.
Yeah.
Lowers your IQ by 10 points, which is the equivalent of losing a night of sleep or having 2 hits of with marijuana. Is that how you say it? 2 hits of marijuana?
Yeah.
So I mean that's the.
I don't know. I don't do it, but if I could, I would, but I can't. But
Yeah, but that's the negative of
it doesn't work for me.
It doesn't work. Yeah, no. I've always been too clean, so I'm not a big play person. But the point is that's the equivalent when you're trying to multitask. That's the consequence. It's the consequence of not having a night of sleep or having 2 puffs or 2 hits on a marijuana, lowering your IQ by 10
on a marijuana what?
Points.
Okay. So yeah, on a marijuana. A stick, a pull,
it's a joint. It's called a joint, right? Yeah, it's a joint.
Good, man, you are with it, Pam.
I am with it.
You are out of control.
Let's talk some solutions, though.
Let's do that.
But it's important to associate to the damage that can do, so that because I think that's the leverage we have to change it. So if you can scroll down a little more here on the thingy, so 3 things here that I would say in terms of solutions when you're multitasking. Number 1 is you've got to schedule block time.
Yep.
And 2 hours a day. I used to say 5 hours a day, but attention spans have gotten so difficult, I think 2 hours a day is a great place to start, but 2 hours a day that are yours, whether it's when you wake up in the morning, 7 to 9, whether it's midday when the house is quiet, whether it's in the evening. We do tend to be more productive in the morning, I will say that, but 2 hours where you shut off any distractions, anything else going on around you, and you're just focused on working on the matter at hand. Now, when you do that, the second tip is work on one thing. And the way to get 8 things done isn't simply to have 8 projects you want to get done in the next 60 days or next 30 days. You don't work on all 8 every day. You take one, you focus, you get it done. You take the second one, focus, and get it done. And science has shown and vetted out that one thing at a time is what makes you more productive. And then the third thing is we have a challenge we wanted to issue, which is the phone challenge. So I'll let you talk about that.
Okay, well, I have a example. I'm going to put the slide up right now. If you have an iPhone, there's something really nice that just got added recently. It's the Do Not Disturb. So you can see that there. You just go under your settings under General. And then on the next page, if you click on Manual or Scheduled, you can actually set it up so your phone doesn't buzz you any longer. And it also won't dial you. Now, I have recently started using this one simple feature. And I've been programmed for, I'll say, years. My phone would buzz, and I would naturally pick up the phone and respond to the text. And there's a great line, a friend of mine who's very productive and very, very wealthy, his autoresponder email text says, "My inbox is not your to-do list." And I think that's something you have to bring up, which is something I was explaining to my son, Zach, the other day. We were driving, and we were just talking about what things matter. And if you think about it, will you remember a week from now a text that you responded to or an email you responded to, or think of all the disruptions and distractions you have during the day, or whatever it is that you think is so important or critical, and chances are not even close. You won't remember it a day from now, probably not even an hour from now. So if it doesn't register in something that you will say, look, will this be important to me a week or a month from now or even a year from now? Will it actually affect my brand or my long-term sales? And the answer is no. Then you need to find effective ways to block those out. And so that would be one of the things that I would suggest. And again, what I've noticed is my level of stress has decreased by somewhere between 1/2 and 2/3 since I just did this. And now I only enable it when I decide I'm available. Otherwise, I can respond to them, get them all done all at once. And
I can
I'm
vouch,
still bad at it.
But I can still vouch that you're often the most present person in the room these days. I mean, you really are. You've been fantastic about it. It's inspired me, which is the challenge we wanted to issue, which is the 2-minute Do Not Disturb challenge. Not 2 minutes, 2 hours.
2
See, there I go
hours,
again,
yes.
right? Diminishing it. 2 hours a day. So turn on. Our challenge to you is to turn on the Do Not Disturb feature on your phone, or just put it away 2 hours a day, just for the next week.
Yeah.
And just by doing that for a week, it starts to create a habit, and you realize, you know what? Not only did life not end and the world not end, I got more done. I was more productive and happier in the process.
True that.
So
good.
There you go.
All right, you ready for the next
Lessons
one?
from a goldfish.
All right, this is one that I can do, which is paying attention to your body. And I will tell you my brief story first, which actually it's funny. My little my notes are missing right now, but I'll talk to this camera. So this past year, I was diagnosed with cancer, and it was a devastating experience, but there was a lot of lessons that I learned in the experience. And the number one thing is that during that time while I was sick, I had about an hour a day where I could function very well most of the time. And I managed to get an enormous amount of stuff done because my physical body only allowed a certain amount of stuff to get done, so I thought and I planned. But what got me into the pickle in the first place was I was ignoring the signs that my body was giving me. And specifically, I had some early warning signs of cancer and what I had, and I won't get into all the details, but it wasn't pleasant, let's just say that. And I just flat out ignored it, or I thought it was something else instead of getting it taken care of. And during that time, I was under so much stress, physically, mentally, emotionally. A lot of it I brought onto myself, and I just decided I was just going to plow through it. And the bottom line is your body is a remarkable measurement device, and it will give you warning signs. And here's the thing is nothing you're doing right now is worth you winding up with a disease that's going to make you ineffective or dead 5, 10, or 15, or 20 years from now. So if whatever you're doing right now that you think is so important isn't worth your life or the relationship with your children or your spouse, then pay attention to your body. Now, one of the things that made a huge difference in my ability to feel it now, and I will tell you that I would say at least every half an hour, I just do a body check-in. And all I do is I've been getting trained, and I've been doing meditation with a meditation coach, and he's taught me a strategy, and it's Zazen meditation, which any form of meditation will help you do there. But he says ground is God, and God is ground, which means put all of your energy and focus on your feet and feel them. And then breathe upward through your body, and breathe in, up through your shoulder, up through your head, through the top of the head, and pay attention to every part of your body and how it feels right now, from your toes, your ankles, your feet, your calves, up through your legs, your torso, your stomach. That's usually the warning sign, you know, what's going on inside your gut. Also breathing in through your lungs and your heart, through your throat, and just pay attention to if you feel anything that feels weird. And I've noticed that if I'm under stress, I feel like I'm vibrating, okay? And that's the sure sign that I have to stop and slow down. So I can just get up, grab a big, tall glass of water, or have a tea, and just breathe and move my body around a little bit and check in. And if that doesn't work, it means that I need to take more time out than that. And again, nothing is worth your life or your long-term health. That is my argument. Look, you've made it this far. Nothing's killed you yet. Whatever you're dealing with right now probably isn't going to kill you either. So that's my little long-winded lesson of you don't need to get cancer like I had it, because it's extremely unpleasant. And I will say it was a great teacher, and I can't look back and say it was a horrible time, but there's a part of me that would like my 1.5 years back. Okay, because I didn't get to spend it intensely or intently in my body with the people and the things that matter most. Back to you, Bob.
Great lessons. You made me think of something as you were sharing that, and thank you for sharing that, which is something I learned from Tony and Sage Robbins, is that they had a phrase they would use a lot, which is, I got to get in my body. Mm-hmm. You know, so some of it for Tony is getting the content embodied and getting it in his physicality before he goes out and presents or performs or connects with an audience. But some of it was just their awareness and realization that so often we're stressed because we're in our head, mm-hmm. and we aren't aware of what's going on in our body. So I think what I love about that exercise is it gets you back in your body, and breath, water, movement are a great way to do that. We have a friend who has a ritual. Every single morning, here's what he does. He wakes up. The first thing he does is he puts a giant silly grin on his face. Mm-hmm. He drinks a big glass of water to hydrate himself with lemon, and then he does 5 or 6 cleansing breaths, you know, just a really deep breath in where you mm-hmm. hold it and then breathe it out. And as he's breathing in, he has a mantra or incantation he says, you know, I love my life, but you can do anything you can do. It's going to be a great day, or I can't wait for today, I can't mm-hmm. wait for the day. Anything that makes you feel good, but takes a minute to do. He does it every time he wakes up, and it starts the day in that place in your body.
Yep.
Very powerful.
30 days is all it takes to start the ritual and make it a habit. Yeah. So
and then go take your 2 hours that are blocked out for you and start your day with time that's you. Instead of most people start their day with emails and phones and,
with to-do.
Other people.
To-do for others.
To-do
not
for others
for
instead
you.
of starting your day for you. So that's a good tip.
Great. Awesome. Anything else on that one?
No, let's move on to the next one.
So after this, we've got measure what's working. Is this one yours or is this one mine?
This one's yours.
Okay. So I just didn't know. So here's the, I think the most important detail of all, and I fall into this trap all the time. The way I measure business is how much money's in the bank account and what my accounts payables and receivables are looking like versus is the brand being built and what are the relationships like with my customers right now, and what do I need to create that will strengthen the bond with them? And all of those things are measurable in terms of, how many, the beauty of Facebook and Twitter, for example, is how many likes a post gets and how many comments you're getting. That doesn't necessarily translate into money, but it does matter with engagement. And the other one is ultimately, how many leads are getting into a funnel, how many people are showing up and watching your presentations, and of course, how many people are buying. But what I think is very, very important, again, getting back to being in your body and starting out with your ritual, is asking yourself this question: what are 3 measurable activities or tasks that I can accomplish today, and how will I measure if they're successful? And driving your day based on that criteria, as opposed to, again, to-dos, because to-dos do not necessarily deliver results.
So I think that's so true, and so many people measure down here instead of going up here. And that's, if there's a theme for kind of what's going on with you and I right now, and where our focus is as we plan our business that has value to you, is taking that step back and that step up at the 30,000 foot level and going, okay, what matters? The brand, the business, the customers, and the solutions we're providing for customers and the connection relationship to them. So measuring that in business, but I'd also say in personal, as you head toward times of year where there's holidays or things like that, being able to say, I'm going to measure my time with my family. I'm going to measure my connectedness or my presence with my family. That might be getting a little woo-woo, but that's a good thing to measure.
Yeah. It's true, and I think one mechanism that can be used is if you take some stock right now, and as I was thinking about this, I would present to you a challenge that we need to do as together for us, but anyone can do this right now, which is take a look at, over the year, what are the top 3 or 5 things that you've accomplished that have had specific measurable results that really delivered value and joy. And value meaning value to your customers, value to your bank account, and joy. In other words, did I enjoy it? Does it make me feel good when I think about it? And was the process great as well? I mean, those are really powerful criteria. And am I doing that right now? Am I investing my time right now, or do I have a plan for engaging in it this coming year? And if you look at that, those 3 things could become the drivers for what you do in the coming year, and you could ask yourself that question every day. What am I doing right now that'll drive those 3 or 5 things?
And I think I love that, and I think that's the start of what's been some of our conversations around it. So here you go, therapy with Mike Koenigs and Pam Hendrickson.
This is good therapy.
We're letting you in on our own therapy.
Yes. So anything else that you want to add on in terms, I know we had a couple notes here about creating the plan for
I think
the day.
what I would say, I'm actually going to change the notes based on what you said, which I loved. And the reason is that what you measure matters. So we all know that you can't manage what you can't measure. But what you measure matters, and I think some of the challenges that create stress, or at least have created stress for me, and I know for some of the people I work closely with, is measuring the wrong things.
Yeah.
And I love that, because I think it's about measuring the right things. So.
Very, very true. Good. And how long they really take and what the return has been, right?
What the return on investment has been in the areas that matter.
And it also gets you out of thinking short-term. This is why this long-term focus is so important. So I actually faded just for a second because I was thinking, going down that path, and I'm like, oh my God. Here, one of the things I told myself while I was going through all the cancer treatments is no longer would I get stuck in the minutia, the day-to-day minutia.
Yeah.
I couldn't, okay? I physically wasn't capable of it. I was thinking about long-term, and here, when I have my body back and it's functioning properly again, I get right back into that short-term thinking.
Yeah.
So that is the curse of being able-bodied, right?
Right.
Is you think less, or you do
more
and
you
think
less.
Yeah.
That's true.
So,
That's true.
So let's move on to the next one, shall we?
Let's do it.
Okay, this is about getting a real assistant. And I'll tell you my 2 nuggets, and then I know you've got something to share as well. So this is years ago when I first started marketing online, and I still had a couple of clients, and I started doing online marketing as well. It became clear that I was spending, basically, I was probably putting in about 70 hours a week. It was way too much work. And that was right around the time I think we probably even met.
You would disappear in the garage for hours.
Yes, and it was all the minutia. And one of the things that Ed talks about is if you can pay someone less money than you're making from an activity, or you determine what your value per hour is, and you can pay someone to do something for less than that, you need to get an assistant.
That's right. And as if there's a quote, I think it says, do what you do best and let others do the rest.
Mm-hmm. So true. So what I did at that point is I wrote the Mrs. Moneypenny ad, which is available in the Make Market Launch It system. And what I essentially did is I came up with a list of all the stuff that I wanted done, and I also revealed my weaknesses. I got very authentic about what I was horrible at and what someone would have to deal with in working with me. And I'm a pill, as you know, to deal with.
Hadn't noticed, but thank you for...
Okay, yeah. Good for acknowledging
And I'm so
that.
easy back.
Oh, yeah, you're totally easy. So, but what happened was I posted the ad and I called it. At the time, I was thinking about how do I get that assistant that James Bond had. It was like, oh yeah, Mrs. Moneypenny. And I said Mr. or Mrs. Moneypenny, and I put up the ad, and it was so interesting because what happened was, first of all, it was raw, it was authentic, and I got about a third of the responses I got were from people that were saying, my God, this is one of the best ads I've ever read on Facebook, and I don't want a job, but I just want you to know that this is great, and I'd really like to meet you. I had people asking me out.
It was
for
good. I think your headline was Agent M seeking Mrs. Moneypenny,
yep,
or Mr. and Mrs.
Mr. Moneypenny for secret missions.
Yeah.
I had probably around 10% of the people responded to the ad actually speaking as though they were responding to the ad in code. So Agent Alex reporting for duty, sir, was one of them. It was that kind of a thing. But I also got a lot of really cool people because the ad was so engaging. All the responses and all the applications I got, I won't say all, but the vast majority were well thought out, and it forced them to respond in a character, in an authentic character, because what I put out got some responses back. So I think the more important thing was I got a very, very good assistant who's still with me to this day, who really worked hard and operated under the values that was written under as well. And I did not get a 9-to-5er. I was really clear up front that I work a lot, I think a lot, I'm busy a lot, and I need someone who can keep up with me and deal with a lot of details and a lot of dead bodies in the street, right? Or, it's sort of like when the tornado goes through, the Disruptosaurus goes through. Yes, exactly. Yeah. There's a lot of bodies left behind.
And someone who isn't trying to change you. I will say that from having hired a lot of assistants for celebrities and high-end people and brands, and I put you in that category, is the biggest mistake I see is the person like that will get an assistant, and that assistant or worker bee will come in and want to change and say, well, Mike, you need to change how you work. You need to change so you do this, this, and this. And it's the opposite. You're where you are and who you are because of who you are.
Yeah.
So
you need someone who's very adaptable.
Who's adaptable, who understands and will figure out how you work and set up the systems to work that. And a quick story, can I go into that? Is that when I first started working with Tony Robbins, I started out as an admin with the company. I worked 5 floors down from the rest of the company. I was the assistant to the assistant to the assistant. I was coming in early and staying late to run the switchboard to make extra money. But when I had the opportunity to move into creative and move into content and product development, here's what happened. I pretty much got the job because I was the last man standing, because it was a revolving door of people. And I was a young kid at that point, but I'm like, okay, all I can figure out is why are these people leaving? Well, the only thing I can figure out they have in common is they're all trying to get Tony to change. They're all walking out the door and going, well, he needed to change, and he needs to not create content at the last minute, and he needs to not, have his event plan done, a month before the event.
Let me find that buzzer. Where is
it? Oh yeah, gosh, it was so simple. I wish we knew. So I'm just a kid, but I'm like, well, that isn't working. So I'm just going to try the opposite, which is let me figure out why he works the way he works, and let me figure out what systems would work to set up to support the way he already works, which is he does prepare. He prepares 2, 3, 4 months out. But what happens is he gets closer to an event, he gets associated to the customers, associated with what he's doing, and it's just his creative process. He needs to get, in the right place, connected with the customers, and he goes through a whole nother creative thing, and that's what gets him ready to deliver. Right. So you know what? How hard is it to find a transcriptionist who's on call the night before an event, or a graphic designer who can do some keynote slides? It's easy. easy. But the key is, don't let your staff think they're there to change you. Understand you and who you are, and then bring people in who are going to set the systems up to support you. And he calls his personal assistant, I love this, powerful anticipator. So PA doesn't stand for personal assistant. In his world, it stands for powerful anticipator, someone who can anticipate what you need.
Yes, and flexibility is a big part of it. So the final way to add this up is, you can get a personal assistant who can just do tasks, and I'd recommend at a minimum just get someone to take the minutia off your plate, which is just getting and responding to your emails, dealing with the social media, the noisy minutia in your life, so you can focus on swinging a big axe at big trees. And I think that's really the big lesson here. And as long as you're a Make Market Launch It member, go grab that ad. I have had literally at this point, I will say, dozens, if not possibly hundreds of people. And again, I can't for sure say that, but in my mind, I've had an enormous number of people who've said, I literally copied and pasted that ad. I modified it for me, and I added my own thing, and I got remarkable people to come to me who are ready and able to deal with my personality type and all the things that they needed to do.
Fantastic.
All right, so next one is the target. And this is something really valuable that I learned recently from a friend who, I can't mention his name, but he is very, very, very wealthy. And he has been introducing me lately to some very high-level people who are massive change agents. And I could at least mention this, it's like Future Med, Singularity University, X Prize. So I've been able to get brought into some very high-level executive things and kind of go to the head of the line without going through the normal list because of a relationship. And his objective is to, support. They really want to do a lot of the things that we're teaching people how to do and make their organization more effective. So we're essentially kind of moving into a bigger territory than we've ever been in before. And he had a comment for me. I don't even think I shared this specific thing with you, but he brought me in to specifically, he wasn't explicit about this, but he said, I want to introduce you to some people. So I walked around, I was just shaking a lot of hands and greeting and being Mr. Friendly Mike. And he pulled me aside and he was laughing at me. He says, look, I appreciate the fact that you've got these skills and you just go and talk to anyone, but there's a lot of people here who are not going to further your cause or your brand or your career or what I brought you in here to do.
Wow.
So I want you to just put something in your mind. And he said, pardon this description, but I'm going to use it anyway. He said, if you're in the open plain, you have to figure out who your prey is. You need to stay downwind, don't go upwind, and circle them and find the best angle to make your kill. And again, he didn't
It's
use
a mercenary metaphor, I get it.
It is,
but yeah.
But let's if we're going to use a loving one.
Yeah, it's true. All relationships aren't created equal, and it's not that our caring and our hearts aren't creating them equal, but in terms of your business outcomes, your personal outcomes, that's powerful.
It is. So I think just to be to soften this a little bit, and soft doesn't necessarily solve your goal or get you to where you want to get to. Poor people can't further anything. In other words, if you want to make a huge, massive difference, becoming immeasurably wealthy is going to help make it happen a lot faster. And this isn't necessarily about money, but it does have to do with value, the amount of value you can deliver and the amount of value the people you're surrounding yourself with do. And so the mass media, your social media, can provide plenty of value to people who can't afford you or who aren't going to further your brand, your career, your business, or your big vision. And what you've got to do is, we all have the same 24 hours, and people who are very, very successful invest their time and their energy and their resources and their plan on the folks who are going to elevate and escalate them rapidly. And you literally can go to the head of the line with a phone call or a single introduction. And where you focus and how you focus is so important. So I'll let you wrap this one up.
You just gave me a huge aha about what I think has been contributing to what's just started. Luckily I'm nipping it in the bud, but it's just starting to nip at me in terms of just not overwhelmed, but just the joy not being there, because I'm feeling like some of it is more have to than get to. And it's, I don't think we should soften this, because I think the point is, for me, I got myself in a pickle because I'm saying yes to everybody. Now, and when you try to be everything to everyone, you're a small fish in a big pond.
And you're nothing to everyone.
You're nothing to everyone. And I don't just mean that from a marketing perspective. I'm pretty good at that. But from a personal relationships perspective, I've never thought about it that way. And I'm horrible at it. I'm the worst person at saying no.
Yeah.
So I think you're right. It's just say yes, just say no, and just target. Understand the relationships that are meaningful, both in terms of your impact, what you can give, and for yourself, and target those. I think that's really smart.
Yeah. So I think that's, and also if you need to, get someone to shield you.
Yeah.
Which is, this is there's something I practice, so I'm going to further this just to seal the deal. I got approached not long ago, a couple weeks ago, by someone who I didn't realize at the time was a con man. And I haven't been conned in a long time, but this person preyed on me. Knew enough about me to be able to, and ultimately this person could have done an enormous amount of damage to me financially, business-wise, and caused me to waste weeks or months of time by making some big promises that he knew he could sucker me into, right? And without revealing anything more than that. And this person actually gave me a false name. But he said a few things, and I took a lot of notes as I listened to the spiel. And that night I woke up, and I had a really, really weird dream. It was like, and I woke up and I started doing research based on the 4 words that this person threw out, and I discovered who it was, what his fake identity was, and I hadn't even told you about this, and found out this person was a con man.
Wow.
And the next day I walked down, and he was all set. He was expecting me to say, hey, let's make a deal, let's do a deal, and I just walked up to him. And I reached out, I looked him in the eyes, and I shook his hand because I wanted to sever this immediately.
Yeah.
And I said, I spent the evening thinking about your proposition, and the answer is no. And he was very manipulative. He was trying to find, can I ask you why? He started just throwing all these things out and peppering me with a ton of messages and stuff like that. And can I ask you, and I just said, it's, if I change my mind, I'll let you know. And he asked me the same question again. I said, I really did. I thought about it. The answer is no. And it's the point of this whole going down that path is this. You have the right at any time, for any reason, to say no.
Yeah.
No one or nothing can make you do anything. And if you don't just say no, you're providing and opening up wiggle room to be manipulated.
And that's what happened. And it's taking time away from your best customers, from the things you love in your business, from your family, from your friends. I mean, it's just a huge distinction.
Don't let the noise and the noisy minority or the frustrated few get in the way of the happy, paying lovers of who you are and what you do, and focus on them. That I think
it's
is
so
the key
smart.
thing.
Aren't you glad we got together to share these 7 minutes of tips that's turned into whatever it is.
It's all right. So are you ready for the last one?
Yes.
All right. So this one is called Remember the Seasons. And why is this so important? Well, do you want to set this one up, Pam?
You set it up.
All right. So I think the most important thing, and again, when we're recording this, it's towards the end of this year, but you can think of things in quarters, which is we've got all our seasons. We've got spring, summer, fall, and winter, and typically fall is harvest time. That's what Thanksgiving and the American tradition is all about. And the question you have to ask yourself is, am I planting seeds right now? And am I forcing things to grow? But there's a cyclical nature. So ultimately, what we need to think about, and what we're really planning, and what really forced us to be here right now today, is we're thinking about, how are we going to create a new field, maybe plant different crops? What kind of content, information do we have to provide for our lovers, those who already care and like and follow us, and nurture that crop, and water them and feed them with authenticity and caring and with love, and allow it to naturally flourish without forcing, because you can't force the seed. You can't peel off the seed and expect it to grow faster. You'll kill it, right? Everything is there for a reason, and depending on your point of view, your religious point of view, it could be thousands or tens of thousands or millions or billions of years. But whatever it is there for a reason, and it behaves a certain way, and you cannot force it. And really, the human psyche can be manipulated.
Yeah.
But it will resent you if you manipulate it. So paying attention and thinking about the season. So what we're dealing with specifically right now is how are we and what are we going to create that creates our next crop? And this is something we have the benefit of planting right now and thinking about it and determining what it's going to be and allowing it to adhere. You know, there's natural law at work. However, we have to, it's up to us to plant it and not be in a space where we're like, damn it, all I grew were weeds. Okay, you can't eat weeds.
Right.
And spring's the time. Winter's the time to plan and think about it. Spring is the time to plant. And summer's the time to cultivate and grow. And that, I think, is really important. So, you know, this is what I would encourage everyone who's watching right now is to think about the seasons, think about the cycles, and take this opportunity, no matter what time of the year it is, to
think about that. And it's true. And we have seasons in our personal lives. We have seasons in our business. Our products have a season. You and I talk about that a lot when we talk about product creation and marketing, is that every product has a life cycle and a season. And we were at an event, you and I, sharing an intimate event with some of our high-level customers recently. And I remember this conversation we had with them where they're saying, gosh, you know, I'm starting out in this whole other branch of my business and these products are new, but it's just frustrating because I feel like they should look like Apple products or look like Disney products. And I said, gosh, you know, where do you think a company like Apple or Disney is in their life cycle? They're mature companies with tons of resources at their disposal. But if you think about go back, the original experience of the first Apple product you bought, there wasn't a Genius bar. There wasn't any kind of bar. You know, as you went in, you got this big clunky box that you brought back to your office or house or dorm room or whatever it was.
Crashed 6 times a day.
That crashed 6 times a day, the spinning wheel of death, right? So it's just when you're in a life cycle of starting out a business or product or service, you've got to make the decisions and understand you're in that life cycle, but there's an advantage to each season, which is the point I wanted to make. And the advantage when you're in that life cycle is there's never a time where you'll have more intimacy, connection, and then personal relationship with your customers than at that phase of your business. So enjoy that.
Right.
You know, if you're going through a winter season, personally or professionally or in your business, the beauty of winter is community. That's a time when people get together and they connect and they find solutions together and they enjoy the relationships. I mean, you went through a little winter with your health, and I know for you, one of the key things that came out of it was just the relationship and the joy of the community and relationship for realizing that. So it's, you know, I noticed one of the companies I used to work with, our training used to do better when there were tough things going on in the environment or tough things going on politically or socially, because that's when people are looking for solutions. So
change and transformation.
So there's a great thing about every season, and it's finding that and appreciating it and using the season, using what's already that natural cycle of the seasons to build and grow. Did I strike a nerve with any of that?
No, I was just sitting with it, and I was just thinking through all this information. So what I would hope everyone who's watching this, you watching this right now, are doing is thinking about, okay, how do I implement each of the steps right now in my own business? How can I leverage this, and how can I prepare for it? And I think it would be good to just go through the tips one more time. So number one is just do it. Okay, no matter where you are right now, now is the time to start, and you just have to plow through it. 15 minutes from now, you're going to be glad you got through it, but you got to get through unsticking those gears, okay? And if they're greasy, the next one is if and when you have momentum, and I didn't add this earlier, but I know, like, after we do a launch, there's a part of us that just wants to shut down and hibernate for a little while. However, there's momentum there, and if you're not taking advantage of whatever momentum you have, it is hard to recreate and start from scratch if you have let it go. And
it is, and you can't have momentum when you're distracting. So take the 2 hour a day, do not disturb challenge and get rid of those distractions for 2 hours a day.
Yep. Next one, listen to your body, okay? It is there. This is a signal. It's a thermometer, and if you ignore it, it is going to punish you. Okay, take it from a couple people who've experienced that. Next, if you can't measure it, don't do it. But start out your day thinking about what can I measure and how am I going to, and it's got to be something better than short-term or fear-based, which is how much money is in my bank account right now. Next one, get an assistant. You've got to get people to help you and get rid of that noisy minutia, especially if you struggle with overwhelm yourself. Okay, this will help make it go away. Next one, remember your target. And finally, pay attention to those seasons and take advantage of those. They are not something to be afraid of, but they're in fact something to embrace. It's a natural cycle that all businesses have. So how would you like to wrap this up, Pammy?
Just with, if there was an 8th bonus tip, is just appreciation. I'm appreciating you. I'm appreciating this conversation very much. It's the first time we've had in a while to really get together and think at a high level. And so hopefully it's added value as well. But just appreciation. Just I think in thinking about all this, the benefit is just the big picture of, you know, there's so much that's good. And just thinking about that, associating to that, feeling grateful for all that's good and whatever areas it is, it's something little, something big, and using that as a place to start, I think is really profound. So thank you for the conversation. Great.
So set yourself up for success. Know what you're dealing with. Look at what has happened, okay? What's the great quote about history? It's a indicator of, how's that? Looking at history is an indicator of future performance.
Oh, yeah. Exactly.
So look at all the things that you've been successful at in the past 12 months that have delivered value and start there. That's a great way to establish what you're going to be doing in the future year as you plant your crops for this coming year. So my name is Mike Koenigs, and
I'm Pam Hendrickson.
Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in another video soon.
Bye for now.